Come here, quick.
What? What's wrong?
Be quiet.
I had returned home in the middle of the night due to an emergency call from work. Trying not to wake my family, I quietly headed back to the bedroom upstairs when suddenly, my father-in-law pulled me into the attic. I looked at him, utterly confused.
Listen carefully to the sounds downstairs.
What? Confused by his actions, I did as he said and paid attention to the noises below. Sure enough, I heard a strange sound I'd never heard before. What is that sound? After noticing the sound, I found a gap through which I could see downstairs, and the sight that greeted me was bizarre. What? What on earth is this?
Trembling with fear at the strange sight, my father-in-law whispered to me, "Get out of here quickly."
I decided to trust him. I'm Mary, a 38-year-old system programmer. Hey, Tim, what time will you be home from work today? Well, work is pretty calm right now, so I should be able to come home on time. Great, then we can have dinner together. Dave, we're off to work now. Take care. See you later. Tim is my husband. We got married 2 years ago. Currently, we live with his father, the three of us in one house. We don't have any children. It's not that we don't want them, but a car accident when I was younger made it difficult. It's been a while since we went out with Molly and Mary. Yes, it really has. I hope we can do this more often. One day, over a decade ago, I was enjoying a drive with my parents, my dad behind the wheel. I thought we'd always be able to do things like this as long as we stayed healthy. But then, tragedy struck. Watch out! Huh? Ah. Ah. Suddenly, a car that ran a red light crashed into us head-on. Our car flipped, and I lost consciousness. A witness must have called an ambulance because when I came to, I was in a hospital bed. I immediately called for a doctor and nurse to ask about my parents' condition. But, I'm sorry, but your parents didn't make it. Also, well, what? What is it? The doctor, looking uncomfortable, informed me of my parents' death and then about my own condition. Unfortunately, your uterus was damaged. What does that mean? Are you saying I can't have children in the future? It's not that you can't, but it will be difficult for you to conceive. Oh no. I lost my parents in the accident, and it left me infertile. I've lost my parents and the chance to be a mother in the future. The reality was a shock. I couldn't bring myself to do anything and even thought about joining my parents. But while sorting through their belongings, I found photos of their smiling faces and cherished mementos, realizing that they would be sad if I followed them. That thought kept me going. I can't stay like this. I still have my work. Accepting my infertility, I decided to give up on love and focused entirely on my job as a system programmer. Before I knew it, I was nearing 40. My life took a turn 3 years ago when I was 35. I'm Tim from sales. Nice to meet you. Hello, nice to meet you too. That was how I met my husband. My first impression of him was that he was serious and sincere about his work. To someone like me, who was devoted to her job, Tim's dedication was very appealing. Apparently, he felt the same about me. We built a good working relationship, but then one day, he surprised me. Excuse me, would you like to have dinner with me sometime? Huh? Tim, if you don't mind me asking, are you married? Tim was 2 years older than me, so at 37, it wouldn't be unusual for him to be married. I asked just to be sure. Unfortunately, I'm divorced because of my infertility. So, I'm single now. Oh, I see. I felt a little sorry for making him share such a personal detail, but it also allowed me to take a step forward. If he doesn't mind that I can't have children, maybe I don't need to worry about being blamed. I had given up on love because I feared being attacked by men who wanted children. But if Tim shared the same concern, I thought we could support each other. All right, let's go to dinner. I accepted his invitation, and we enjoyed our time together. Tim was fun to talk to, and I started to think that life with him could be enjoyable. Naturally, we grew closer, and Tim eventually confessed his feelings, leading to our relationship. A year later, when I was 36, he proposed. "Mary, I love you. We can't have children, but will you marry me?" Looking straight at me, Tim proposed, and my answer was clear. I was in an accident years ago and became infertile. So, it's okay. As long as I have you, Tim. When you get married, you usually want to have children. That's what most people think. With that in mind, infertility can be a significant hurdle to marriage. But we openly shared our vulnerabilities and accepted a childless life, which allowed us to marry. I thought my happy new life was beginning. I wish Molly could see how happy we are together. I wish I could show my parents, too. We exchanged these words at our wedding. My mother-in-law had passed away 2 years before our wedding. My husband often spoke of how she adored him. At times, I wondered if he was a bit of a mama's boy, but I understood the importance of cherishing one's parents. I reminded myself not to overthink it. As for our living situation after marriage, as I mentioned earlier, we live with my father-in-law, the 3 of us together. This arrangement was at my husband's request. "Hey, Mary, if I move out, Dad will be all alone." Yes, that's true. He's getting older, and I'm worried about him. So, I'm sorry, but could we live with him? Live together? Okay, that's fine. I had mixed feelings about living with my in-laws. I wanted to enjoy peaceful time with just my husband. However, since my parents have already passed away, there's nothing I can do for them now. So, I understood my husband's desire to do something for his father, and I agreed to his request. Besides wanting to respect my husband's feelings for his father, there was another reason. Besides, I thought his father would be kind and easy to live with, just like my husband. However, that optimism turned out to be my mistake. What's wrong with me? It's so hard to sleep. Some people have trouble sleeping in unfamiliar places, but that wasn't usually a problem for me, whether it was my grandparents' house or a hotel. Yet, at my in-laws' house, I found it hard to sleep. It wasn't because of different bedding or pillows. My relationship with my father-in-law also played a part in my decision. I felt distant from my father-in-law and didn't know why. "Excuse me, Dave, do you have a moment?" "Sorry, I'm busy right now." "Later." "All right." Whenever I tried to talk to him, he brushed me off with, "I'm busy," or ended the conversation quickly with, "Yeah, huh, or I see." He seemed to avoid interacting with me. Did I do something to upset him? I couldn't think of any reason for his behavior. My husband might know something, but after a year of marriage, he started treating me coldly too. "Hey, Tim, is your dad normally quiet or not good with people?" "Huh? Why are you asking that?" "Well, he seems to avoid me, like there's a distance between us." "I don't know. Maybe you did something. Don't bother me with that stuff." "What? Tim, what's wrong with you?" A year into our marriage, my kind husband had changed, speaking harshly and treating me poorly. His behavior kept getting worse, while my father-in-law's distance seemed to have a valid reason, which I would find out later. Tim's mistreatment wasn't just verbal. He would throw away my belongings if he deemed them unnecessary, including things I cherished. "Hey, Tim, have you seen the stuffed animal my parents gave me?" "Yeah, I threw that dirty thing away. You're too old for stuffed animals." "What?" "That was a precious gift from my parents." His actions became increasingly intolerable. If that's how it's going to be, I'll have to hide my important things from Tim. I thought as I sorted through my possessions. At that moment, "Mary, can I talk to you for a moment? This stuffed animal is yours, right?" "Oh, yes. Thank you so much for finding it." I saw Tim taking it somewhere. "Thank you. You saved me." Thanks to my father-in-law, my cherished stuffed animal was returned to me. He really is kind. Despite the distance he kept, I didn't expect him to retrieve it for me. Clearly, his attitude towards me had a reason, but I was certain of it. Surely, from now on, I could build a good relationship with my father-in-law. Just when I started to think that way, things took a sudden turn. Huff, huff. Dave, are you okay? Stay with me. One day, my father-in-law suddenly fell ill. His face looked terribly pale, and I had to rush him to the hospital. The initial examination didn't reveal anything, so they decided to admit him for further tests. I informed my husband about it, but his response was unbelievable. If they find something, the doctors will treat him, right? It's not my problem. What do you mean by that? Didn't we move in to look after him? His words were a blatant contradiction to what he had said when we decided to live together. Was he always this cold-hearted? Where had my kind husband gone? The drastic change in him shocked me, but worse was yet to come. A few days later, while I was out shopping, I saw my husband in town. At first, I hesitated to approach him, but then... Kate, you're so cute. Oh, stop it, Tim. Huh? What's this? Could it be? He was walking arm in arm with a woman, laughing and chatting like they were a couple. While their behavior was romantic, something felt off. The woman looked much older than my husband. Was she a relative I didn't know about, or was he cheating? Either way, Tim's behavior is suspicious. I couldn't just let it fester. I needed to know the truth. So, I decided to hire a private investigator. Worried about my father-in-law's condition and my husband's actions, I couldn't find any peace. Then, the hospital called with the test results. I rushed there to hear what the doctor had to say. Please stay calm. Your father-in-law has terminal cancer. He has about 2 years left. No. I see. The doctor's words shocked me, but my father-in-law remained surprisingly calm. Maybe he already knew about his condition? He seemed so composed. Shortly after the hospital visit, I received the investigator's report. I hoped it would reveal that my husband wasn't cheating, that it was just a close family member. But we have the results. To put it simply, your husband is cheating. No. My prayers were in vain. My husband was indeed cheating. As I reviewed the photos, I noticed. Wait, this isn't the same woman. The woman I saw before was older, but the one in the photos was much younger. They were clearly different people. Could it be that my husband is cheating with multiple women? No matter what, it doesn't change the fact that he betrayed me. I can't forgive such a betrayal. Honestly, I wanted to divorce him, but my father-in-law was battling terminal cancer. If I divorced now, he'd have to face his illness alone. Considering that, I decided to prioritize him and postpone the divorce. Dave, how are you feeling? Today's a better day. Sorry for making you worry. No, it's okay. From observing him, it didn't seem like he needed full-time care yet. However, given his prognosis, his condition could deteriorate at any moment. I wanted to be with him as much as possible to be prepared. Kate! Tim, over here! There he goes again. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, my husband was still infatuated with his mistress. Whether it was through the investigator's findings or my own observations, the evidence of his infidelity kept piling up. It was exasperating. I can't rely on Tim for anything regarding Dave anymore. My trust in my husband was completely shattered. While he was off with his mistresses, I was alone taking care of my father-in-law. But then, a few weeks later, there was a problem at work. My boss called and urgently needed me to come in. Worried about my father-in-law, but knowing the situation at work was dire, I hurried to the office. Upon arrival, I saw my boss and colleagues in a frenzy. I got the situation update, followed instructions, and joined in the effort. The task was tough, but together, we managed to resolve it, and I could finally head home. It's so late already. By the time I finished work and got home, it was past midnight. I quietly unlocked the door and slipped inside to avoid waking my father-in-law. Planning to head straight to bed, I tiptoed to the stairs. But just as I reached for the bedroom door,
Mary, come here.
huh? Dave, what's going on?
Shh. Be quiet.
I was shocked to see him awake, but even more so when he dragged me into the attic, which we used as a storage room, and closed the door behind us.
Dave, what's happening? Listen carefully. Hear that noise downstairs? What?
Confused, I listened intently and heard an unfamiliar sound.
What is that?
Peeking through the gap in the door, I saw a chilling sight. A woman, resembling my husband's mistress, was wandering the hallway with a crazed look on her face. Mary, where are you? I won't forgive the woman who seduces Tim. Is she looking for me? It was clear her target was me, not my husband. Her vengeful words echoed, making my heart pound.
Gulp.
Was my life in danger? Judging by her behavior, it seemed so. My instincts screamed at me to be on high alert. What should I do? I was paralyzed with fear and confusion, but my father-in-law spoke up, breaking through my panic.
This won't do. You need to get out of here before that woman shows up. What? But then, what about you? Don't worry about me. Just make sure you don't see Tim until the divorce is finalized. Focus on that. All right.
My father-in-law was desperately trying to protect me. To honor his efforts, I realized that my own safety had to come first. I needed to leave without running into the mistress. As I watched her. Damn it, Mary. I will find you eventually. The mistress spat her threat and left.
Phew, she's gone. Mary, take this and get out of here now.
Yes, I understand. I took the letter from my father-in-law and hurriedly left the house. I contacted my lawyer, who I had prepared in advance, to proceed with the divorce and claim alimony for the infidelity. The investigator revealed my husband was cheating during work hours, leading to his dismissal when I informed his company. With the divorce finalized, I met my ex-husband again to discuss the alimony. Even if we're divorced, I'll be fine with Kate. Plus, I'm about to come into a lot of money, so I'll pay the alimony. Thank you very much. My ex-husband acted tough and paid the alimony in full. His mistress was also there. Letting go of Tim? What a foolish woman. She smirked triumphantly. Even so, she looks even older in person than in the photos. She thought she had one, but I didn't see it as a competition. I just felt uneasy about the discrepancy between her photos and her real appearance. 2 years later, my father-in-law passed away after a long battle with his illness. I attended the funeral. Finally, this day has come. You sure kept us waiting. Huh? Is that Tim? He made such disrespectful remarks at his own father's funeral. Not just his words, but he looked gaunt and worn, almost unrecognizable from 2 years ago. I thought I'd be rich soon, so I paid the alimony. But then I had to wait 2 years. Damn old man. Hey. Tim, cut it out. Do you even realize what you're saying? His relatives, also attending the funeral, were horrified and tried to stop his outburst. It's fine. Tim's been through a lot too, you know. What? You. Why are you? His mistress appeared, causing shock and silence among his family. The reason for their reaction became clear at the crematorium. You seemed surprised to see Kate. Is something wrong? When I asked his relatives, they explained with pale faces. Her name is Kate? I thought she was Julia. Julia? Tim's mother. Didn't you ever meet her? No, she passed away before we got married. This explained why the mistress looked older. His relative's story gave me some clarity. Well, Kate doesn't matter now. I suspected my ex-husband might cause a scene for a certain reason. As I watched, it was just as I expected. Hey, forget all this boring talk and ceremony. Just give me the inheritance already. My ex-husband's big money plan was his father's inheritance. He thought he was finally getting it, making him act weird. I decided to hit him with a reality check he didn't know about. Sorry, Tim, but things won't go your way. Your father left a will. A will? Yes, and I'm the one who's inheriting everything. I was legally adopted by him. What? You've got to be kidding me. I knew he'd complain, but his reaction was exactly what I expected. A man who had been so selfish had no right to complain. Who's kidding here? You neglected your father while you were cheating. Don't act high and mighty. Ugh. Damn it. I glared at him, and he couldn't say anything back, biting his lip in frustration. The only one who spoke to him then was his mistress. It's okay, Tim. I'll take care of you. She hugged him, trying to comfort him. She usually spoke like a subordinate, but now her tone was different. Could it be? I remembered the letter my father-in-law had left. What it said was unbelievable. I have a sixth sense. Tim's mistress Kate is possessed by my late wife, Julia. At the time, I thought it was impossible, but seeing the mistress now, acting like my mother-in-law, it made sense. That explains the difference between her photos and reality. Photos capture reality, so ghosts don't show up in them. The young woman I saw in the photos was only that, her physical form. Most likely, that was it. To me, my father-in-law, and my ex-husband's relatives, she appeared as the possessed mother-in-law, hence her older appearance. Also, my father-in-law mentioned why Tim divorced his first wife. Tim's first divorce was because of Julia. She was obsessed with Tim and tormented his first wife, causing the divorce. I'd heard about how much his mother doted on him, but not to this extent. It was too much for me to handle. Even after death, she was still obsessed with him, possessing his mistress. Tim, you've done nothing wrong. It's all this woman's fault. What is she talking about? Was the mistress naturally prone to being possessed? Her eerie behavior sent chills down my spine. Maybe this is karma. Seeing her like this, her identity mixed with my mother-in-law's spirit, I couldn't think of anything else. The mistress seemed clearly possessed, but it wasn't the first time. The letter also detailed the night I ran away. The one who appeared wasn't the mistress, but my mother-in-law. She was frustrated that I wasn't divorcing Tim yet, so she tried to get rid of me. That the mistress was so possessed made her pitiful. However, my father-in-law noted the mistress approached Tim for money, so she didn't deserve sympathy. 5 years passed. On my father-in-law's death anniversary, I visited his grave and ran into my ex-husband's relatives. Naturally, we talked about him. At the funeral, Kate, or rather Julia, said she'd take care of Tim. But it seems she didn't have any money either. Then where are they living now? They're living in a cardboard box by the river. Oh, I see. Given their state 5 years ago, it's no surprise they ended up homeless. It seemed like a natural progression. One might think they regretted their current situation, but apparently, they didn't. He didn't even realize how bad his life was. He laughed like he was living in a mansion. What? Is that safe? Of course not. Leaving him like that would only cause trouble for others. So, we had no choice but to have him committed to a mental hospital with the help of the rest of the family. I see. That must have been really tough for all of you. I could only imagine the struggles his family went through to get him into the mental hospital. It must have been a nightmare. As soon as he was admitted, he suddenly went berserk. The mistress also went through a similar transformation and ended up in the same mental hospital. Even though they were finally institutionalized, it's unlikely they will ever return to normal. I feel for the doctors and nurses who have to deal with them, but hopefully, this reduces the damage they can cause. As an aside, my father-in-law wrote in his letter that my parents had been protecting me. Considering I survived a serious car accident in the past, it seemed plausible. If my father-in-law hadn't helped me escape 7 years ago, I might not be here today. Thinking about it, he must have been watching over me too. Though he never mentioned it, I'm sure of it. To bring peace to the 3 watching over me from heaven, I'm determined to live a happy life from now on.